Good morning, everyone. My name is Paul Quinn. I manage the Regeneration projects for Clarion Housing Group. And I'm here as the client today. And Dan's been working with us for quite a long time in this project. So Barton's a really important project for us in Clarion. We own and manage 125,000 homes, but this one's a bit more special, and we're making a particular effort with this one. It's wildly expensive. As Dan will show you, it's an incredibly complicated site. And I remember pitching this site to our investment committee, our finance committee, quite a few years ago, thinking, I'm getting nowhere with this, it's not going well. And the chief exec came on the line, and Claire never comes to the investment committee meetings. And her line was, we've been running social housing in Plymouth for over 30 years. This site is very important to us. I would like to see it supported. And in those couple of sentences, we got the project through. Now, it still took us another 4 years to get the site, but we're on site now. And Dan will talk you through our plans for Barton, and particularly how amazingly resilient the local population has been. They've been fantastic, and they've been at the heart of everything we're doing. And we're particularly going to talk about the building with nature element of this. This is one of the earliest, possibly the earliest, building with nature accredited scheme. And that gave us the DNA for the project. So it allowed us to raise the bar for what we were going to try and achieve here. And that building with nature accreditation is incredibly important to us. And we are now applying it in other Clarion regeneration schemes, one of which we'll just touch on right at the end. Dan.
Brilliant, thanks Paul. I'm not sure about the couple side of things, but client, consultant, but we've been working together for 12 years now. Barton, and as you can see, it's the Europe's largest naval housing estate, and you can see from the photos the obvious challenges it had. So we did initially look at refurb options, but it was temporary housing put up at the end of the Second World War, and the housing, the stock is beyond its useful life. So as you can see from the map, it's a bit skewed, Robert, but it's 5 kilometres from the city centre where we are now. And actually, I haven't got a point to it, we actually went on the boat last night. You can see, just for your reference, the Tamar Bridge, the Brunel Bridge at the top there. So known locally as the island, it's surrounded with the dockyard to the south, the Tamar Estuary up to along the west, and then to the north and east is the railway line and road. So it's only accessible by one route, one road under bridge, so it does feel very disconnected from the rest of the city and quite an isolated community. The estate, as you can see, was replica blocks placed along the road, are all identical. And by nature of the site, all the diversities are in the centre of the box, in between. One of the main challenges, as Paul was mentioning, was the topography of the site. There's 28 metres of level change from the top to the bottom. So it was great fun working out the levels on that one. But and as you can see, so all the blocks are either set up or down from the roads. So many problems in accessibility. And some of the gradings steep as like 1 in 4 across the site. So that was quite challenging to work with. As I was mentioning, each block is exactly the same, so it's quite hard to orientate yourself when you're moving around the site. There was no windows on gable ends, so it's quite hard it's not really good for natural surveillance, and lots of leftover parcels of land, and generally unkept estate, which had knock-on in terms of secure by design. We chatted to a lot of consultation events, and families are scared to leave their flats at night because all this area in between the blocks was no natural surveillance at all, was heavily wooded, and no definition between public and private, and a lot of associated issues. Another thing that happened during the course of our project work down there was the construction and energy work from waste building, which on your doorstep, such a large building, to have really big visual impacts and the smoke and everything. So that had some quite negative connotations as well for the local residents. But it's not all bad. As Paul has touched upon, the local community has been so strong throughout the whole process. We did 8 consultation events, And we had a newsletter with arts project, with websites. But one of the best things is the resident steering group was set up in 2017, and they've met every month since. So they've done given over 800 hours to this project. And the first residents are moving back in December. So out of the original cohort of 20 families, we've been decanted into phase 2, which is still standing. A lot of them are moving back in December, and that's one of the really strong things we'd like to tell you about this project. The other thing is the River Tamar. I'm a little bit biased because I grew up a little upstream from there. But I don't know if you saw it on the boat trip yesterday, how beautiful it was. But if you were walking around Barton, you wouldn't know it was there. So we felt this is one of the most amazing rivers in the country. And to bring something of this quality into the site was our rather real big opportunity. So, as we touched on earlier, there's 228 two-bedroom apartments. What we're proposing is a mix of 2 and 3 bedroom homes and 1 and 2 bedroom apartments. So people can stay within the neighbourhood, throughout their lives, upsize, downsize as they need. So from the existing condition of our main move, one big move was a green street. So that reorientated the whole site away from the energy waste building towards the River Tamar, trying to bring some of that beauty and that quality into the heart of the site. And that did another thing as well. It cut across those levels. So from these very steep streets, we've now got a very gentle gradient up to the heart of the site, reducing some of those health inequalities for people who live there. So along the Green Street, we've got lots of active frontage, a range of housing types, a lot of planting, rain gardens, informal play, and a sort of focus for this new community. On the corners, to deal with the gradients as you go from one level to the next, at 90 degrees, we use apartment blocks. That gave a real focus and enclosure to those key nodes throughout the site. Okay. Our next big move was mansion blocks. These really worked well. There's a big level change from back to front, so like over 3 metres. They take up their change in level, and then what they provided is an apartment block on the ground floor, and then 2 houses above. Now these have been proved really popular with Clarion and the residents because they're multi-generational living. So we're finding like grandparents are taking the flat downstairs and the families above. They get a nice front garden for the apartment and then big back gardens at the back with these amazing views out across out to the Tamar. And then we've infilled those streets with houses, ranging 2 and 3 bed houses, mainly terraces. And what we've done, the gable ends requires that animation along the street, and they step up as you move up that green street to get that really nice active street scene. At the sort of central square there, we've then placed the community centre, so Clarion got permanent presence on site for events and ongoing consultation, and an over 55s block as well. Right at the heart of the site there. And so there is the master plan that gives you an idea of how it's all come together. So build with nature. I think this is the first one, wasn't it, Clarion? And we suggested it because we thought, it is best case in practice for in terms of master planning, and it ticks all these building with nature boxes. In terms of well-being, we've got all those community uses, play in that green street there, food growing, accessibility, it's doing well on all those aspects. Water with naturally draining the whole site down that green street, rain gardens at the bottom of the site there. And then with wildlife, we're connecting to the wider green infrastructure down to the woods at the bottom through the site. There's a lot of green space at the top of the Barne, so we're connecting through up to there and through this green street, which we think is going to be the first of maybe 2 or 3 phases that can get down and out to the Tamar as well. So I'm just going to pass over to Paul.
Just the last couple of slides. We've learned a lot in terms of building with nature from the Barton site. We're now looking to apply it to as many as possible of our sites. We're probably going to include it in our employers' requirements. This is the next site where we have used building with nature as our benchmark. This is a very different site. This is in Chelsea. This is 1913 mansion block based estate. It's a little oasis of social housing in a sea of the most expensive real estate in Europe. And we've just completed phase 1. We got handover on Tuesday. Did open house on last weekend, and there's a couple of community events on there as we speak. And as you can see, this is a very harsh environment. It's very hard. There's very little greenery. What little greenery there is laurels and other stuff you wouldn't want. And what we've done with this site is this. So, and we've completely softened it up. And starting to include things like balconies and that weren't there before. But really the landscape is the key here. And this is the first phase completed. Those plants are about 2 weeks old, if that. So hopefully there's a bit more growth in them. And over the next 18 months, we will extend this public realm right through the rest of the estate. This is the bit that links it all together. And usefully, we're also hiding 28 boreholes for a ground source heat pump underneath that landscape. So this is the way we're hopefully going to be able to run a lot of our regeneration projects in future. Building with nature is a great starting point. It's a pass-fail, so if you commit to it, you have to deliver against it, and you're tested against it. And we think it's a great way of building that future biodiversity into your schemes. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you.